Hello and welcome to Coins Hunter USA, the channel where we explore the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins from across the United States. If you love uncovering hidden treasures, learning the stories behind unique pieces of history, and finding out just how much that little coin in your pocket might be worth, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into a true American classic, the Jefferson nickel 5-cent coin. It's a coin most people overlook in their change, but certain rare examples of this nickel can be worth far more than you'd imagine. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you might start looking at your nickels in a whole new way. Top 1. Today we are diving into another fascinating journey in the world of rare American coins, and today's spotlight is on a coin that might just be hiding in your collection or even in your loose change, the 1973 Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary 5-cent piece, the kind you've seen countless times. But appearances can be deceiving, because some of these nickels have features that make them highly collectible and shockingly valuable. By the time you finish this video, you'll understand exactly why collectors are willing to pay thousands for the right 1973 Jefferson nickel, and you'll know the specific things to look for if you happen to come across one. The Jefferson nickel has been part of American coinage since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, its obverse proudly displays a profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, with a calm and dignified gaze. On the reverse, you'll see the stately Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home, with its classic columns and dome. The 1973 issue continued this long tradition, but it came at a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning in technology, and certain minting quirks and inconsistencies slipped into circulation, quirks that are now golden opportunities for collectors. In 1973, Jefferson nickels were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced coins intended for everyday use, while the San Francisco mint made proof coins for collectors. Most of these coins are still worth only face value today, but that's only if they are ordinary, well-circulated pieces. The treasure lies in examples that are in pristine, uncirculated condition or that possess rare mint errors. Condition is the first major factor. A 1973 Jefferson nickel in superb uncirculated condition, graded at the highest levels by professional grading services, can command an impressive premium. Why? Because finding a coin from the early 1970s with its original luster intact, no scratches, and sharp, crisp details is extremely difficult. Most of these nickels saw decades of heavy use in commerce, meaning they developed wear and dulling very quickly. When a pristine specimen does surface, collectors compete fiercely to add it to their collections. Now, let's talk about the fun part: errors. Error coins are like the hidden Easter eggs of numismatics. They occur when something goes slightly wrong during the minting process, and those mistakes can create coins that are one of a kind. For the 1973 Jefferson nickel, some of the most notable errors include off-center strikes, where the design is noticeably shifted, double dies, where parts of the image or lettering appear doubled, and die cracks, where raised lines or bumps appear from a damaged die. There are also rare instances of nickels struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination, such as a penny or dime. These oddities can turn an everyday coin into a showpiece worth thousands. Another factor that excites collectors is full step designation. On the reverse of the Jefferson nickel, the steps leading up to Monticello are often weakly struck, appearing blurred or incomplete. However, coins that show all the steps in full, sharp detail, known as full steps nickels, are much rarer. In the 1973 series, full steps nickels in gem condition are particularly hard to find, making them highly sought after and significantly more valuable. The appeal of the 1973 Jefferson nickel also comes from its place in history. The early 1970s were a period of change in American coinage, with shifts in metal composition, minting technology, and the economy. Holding one of these coins in pristine condition is like holding a preserved slice of that era, a reminder of a time before the flood of modern high-speed minting equipment, when small variations were more likely to occur. For a collector, finding one of these rare and valuable 1973 Jefferson nickels is both a challenge and a thrill. It's the kind of discovery that makes coin hunting so addictive. Every time you sort through your change or examine an old coin jar, you're playing a quiet game of treasure hunt. And if you're lucky enough to uncover the right combination, pristine condition, rare mint error, and strong strike detail, you might just be looking at a life-changing find. And now, the part you've been waiting for. A top-quality 1973 Jefferson nickel with the rarest features and in the highest grade can be worth an incredible $64,000. Top 2. We are stepping into the fascinating world of American coinage today, and the star of our journey is none other than the 1974 Jefferson nickel. Now, for most people, a nickel is just another 5-cent coin, small, unassuming, and often overlooked. But for coin collectors and treasure hunters, certain Jefferson nickels hold a story, a rarity, and in some cases, a jaw-dropping value that makes them worth far more than their face value. The 1974 issue is one such coin, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why it has captured the attention of numismatists across the United States and beyond. To fully appreciate this coin, we first need to step back in time. The Jefferson nickel series began in 1938, replacing the iconic Buffalo nickel after the U.S. Mint held a design competition. The winning design, by German-born American sculptor Felix Schlag, features a dignified left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse. Jefferson is depicted with a calm, stately demeanor, symbolizing leadership and intellect. On the reverse, Schlag chose to highlight Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia estate, with its neoclassical architecture and elegant dome. The design is a blend of American history and artistic craftsmanship, and it has stood the test of time for decades. Fast forward to 1974, a period of economic challenges, political change, and social transformation in the United States. Inflation was rising, the Vietnam War had ended only the year before, and the nation was about to face the Watergate scandal. In this atmosphere, the U.S. Mint continued producing Jefferson nickels, striking them in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia and Denver struck millions for everyday commerce, while San Francisco produced proof coins for collectors. At first glance, all 1974 Jefferson nickels may seem identical. But coin collecting is all about the details, and the difference between a nickel worth 5 cents and one worth tens of thousands lies in two key factors: condition and rarity-enhancing features. Let's start with condition. When a coin is freshly minted, it has what collectors call mint luster, a shimmering surface that reflects light in a unique way. Over time, as a coin circulates, it loses this luster, picks up scratches, and shows signs of wear. Most 1974 nickels you encounter today have been through decades of circulation, bouncing around in pockets, registers, and coin jars. This constant use erases the fine details in Jefferson's hair, the steps of Monticello, and the smoothness of the fields. But a small number have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, kept safe in rolls, mint sets, or collections since the day they were struck. The grading scale for coins runs from 1, poor, to 70, perfect. A 1974 Jefferson nickel that scores at the very top of that scale, especially with sharp, crisp details and no blemishes, becomes a highly desirable collector's piece. These top-grade coins are rare because even slight imperfections, tiny nicks, faint hairlines, or weak strikes, can dramatically lower a coin's grade and value. Next, we move to the fascinating world of mint errors. These are unintentional mistakes that happen during the production process, and they can turn an ordinary coin into a unique collectible. For the 1974 Jefferson nickel, errors can take several forms: double die obverse or reverse. This happens when the die that strikes the coin is engraved twice at a slightly different angle, causing certain design elements, like the lettering, numbers, or Jefferson's profile, to appear doubled. Off-center strikes, the design is misaligned, leaving part of the coin blank and part with incomplete images. Clipped planchets, a portion of the metal blank is missing before striking, resulting in a crescent-shaped gap on the finished coin. Wrong planchet errors. In rare cases, a nickel is accidentally struck on a blank meant for a different denomination, such as a penny or dime, producing a coin with unusual metal composition and size differences. Die cracks or cuds, raised lines or blobs appear where the die has fractured or broken, leaving unique and identifiable marks on the coin. Each of these errors is essentially a one-of-a-kind occurrence. Collectors prize them because they combine rarity with visual intrigue, and in some cases, they can dramatically increase a coin's value. Another major draw for Jefferson nickel enthusiasts is the full steps designation. On the reverse of the coin, at the base of Monticello, you'll see a series of steps leading up to the building. On most coins, these steps are faint or partially struck, but a coin that clearly shows all the steps, without breaks or flattening, is considered exceptional. Full steps nickels from 1974 are particularly hard to find because the dies used that year often produced weaker strikes. Finding one in gem condition with full steps is like hitting a numismatic jackpot. Now, why do collectors care so much about coins like the 1974 Jefferson nickel? Part of it is the thrill of the hunt. Searching through rolls of nickels or inherited coin jars, hoping to find that one flawless specimen or bizarre mint error, taps into a deep human love for treasure hunting. Another part is the historical connection. Owning a coin from a specific year ties you to the events and culture of that time. The 1974 Jefferson nickel is a relic of a turbulent decade, a small metal artifact that has silently witnessed half a century of change. When you combine pristine condition, rare error features, and perhaps that elusive full step strike, the result can be a coin worth far, far more than anyone might guess at first glance. And here comes the part you've been waiting for: a top-grade, rare error 1974 Jefferson nickel with the right combination of features has been known to reach an incredible $69,000 in value. Think about that, $69,000 for a coin most people would casually hand over at a gas station. It's a reminder that the extraordinary can hide in the ordinary, and that every coin has a story worth discovering. So next time you come across a Jefferson nickel, don't just toss it into change, study it, appreciate it, and you might just find your own hidden treasure. Top 3. We are stepping into the captivating world of rare American coins today, and the spotlight is on a piece that millions of people have handled without realizing its true potential: the 1975 Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it's just a small, everyday 5-cent coin you could find in your change. But as every serious coin hunter knows, the most extraordinary treasures often hide in plain sight. And in certain cases, the 1975 Jefferson nickel can transform from common change into a stunning payday. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what makes these coins so sought after, and you'll understand why some collectors are willing to pay small fortunes for them. Let's begin with a bit of historical background, because every coin is more than just metal, it's a piece of history you can hold in your hand. The Jefferson nickel series began in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, which had been in circulation since 1913. The U.S. Mint held a design competition to determine the new coin's look, and the winning design came from sculptor Felix Schlag. His vision captured a dignified profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, Jefferson's historic Virginia home, on the reverse. By 1975, the Jefferson nickel had been in circulation for 37 years, surviving through World War II, the Korean War, the Civil Rights era, and the turbulent 1960s. The mid-1970s in America were a time of economic uncertainty. Inflation was climbing, the nation was recovering from the Vietnam War, and there was a growing interest in modern coin collecting. More people were starting to search through their change, hoping to find rare mint errors or high-grade examples that could one day become valuable collectibles. The U.S. Mint produced 1975 Jefferson nickels at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, No Mint Mark; Denver, D Mint Mark; and San Francisco, S Mint Mark. Philadelphia and Denver struck coins for everyday use, while San Francisco struck proof coins for collectors. In total, hundreds of millions of nickels were made that year, so finding a circulated example is easy. But finding one in pristine, untouched condition, or one with a significant mint error, is a challenge that excites collectors. The first and most important factor that determines a coin's value is condition. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1, poor, to 70, perfect. A grade of MS 65 or higher for a 1975 Jefferson nickel means the coin has exceptional luster, sharp details, and no noticeable scratches or wear. Over the years, most nickels have been tossed into pockets, dropped on counters, or clinked together in coin jars, leading to tiny nicks and a dulling of the original mint shine. That's why high-grade examples are so rare, and why collectors are willing to pay so much for them. Next comes the exciting world of mint errors, which can turn an ordinary nickel into a numismatic masterpiece. Mint errors are essentially mistakes that happen during the production process, and each one tells its own unique story. Let's explore some of the rarest and most valuable error types for the 1975 Jefferson nickel, double die obverse, DDO. This happens when the die used to strike the coin is engraved twice at slightly different angles, creating a doubled image. On the 1975 nickel, this might appear in Jefferson's eye, his hair, or in the inscriptions, Liberty, or the date, double die reverse, DDR, similar to the DDO, but it affects the reverse design. Doubling can appear in the steps of Monticello, the lettering E pluribus unum, or United States of America. Off-center strikes, caused when the planchet, coin blank, isn't properly centered under the dies. Part of the design is missing, and a blank crescent shape is visible. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the higher the value, especially if the date is still fully visible. Clipped planchets, these occur when the blank metal disc is improperly cut, leaving a curved section missing. Wrong planchet errors. Occasionally, a nickel was struck on a blank intended for a different coin, such as a penny or a dime. These wrong metal coins are incredibly rare and highly prized. Die cracks and cuds. As dies wear out or crack, they leave raised lines or blobs on the coin's surface. While some are minor, larger, or more dramatic cuds can make a coin highly collectible. One of the most coveted features among Jefferson nickel enthusiasts is the full steps designation. On the reverse of the coin, at the base of Monticello, there are steps leading up to the building. In most coins, these steps are weakly struck and lack detail. But in rare cases, you can clearly see all 6 steps without breaks or flattening. A 1975 Jefferson nickel with full steps in mint state condition is a real prize and can command a substantial premium. Beyond the technical aspects, there's also the emotional and historical appeal of this coin. Every 1975 Jefferson nickel is a tiny artifact of its time. Think about the history it might have witnessed. Maybe it was used to buy candy at a corner store, given as change at a gas station during the energy crisis, or saved by a young collector who recognized its potential. Coins connect us to the everyday lives of people from the past, and for many collectors, that connection is just as valuable as the metal itself. The hunt for rare coins like the 1975 Jefferson nickel is also about patience and persistence. Serious collectors know that treasure hunting often means searching through hundreds, even thousands, of coins before finding something special. But when that moment comes, when you pull a pristine example or a dramatic mint error from a roll of nickels, it's a feeling of discovery that never gets old. And now, we've reached the moment you've been waiting for. When you combine the highest grades of preservation, a rare mint error, and perhaps the elusive full steps designation, the result can be spectacular. A top-quality, rare error 1975 Jefferson nickel in gem condition has been known to reach an astonishing $75,000 in value. Yes, $75,000 for a coin most people would spend without a second thought. It's a reminder that the extraordinary often hides in the ordinary, and that your pocket change could hold far more value than you realize. So the next time you come across a 1975 Jefferson nickel, take a closer look. Examine it for sharp details, unusual features, and signs of rarity. You never know, you might be holding a small fortune between your fingers. Top 4. We are about to take a deep dive into a coin that many people overlook every single day, the 1979 Jefferson nickel. Most folks see it as nothing more than 5 cents, a small piece of metal that jingles in your pocket or gets tossed into a change jar without a second thought. But for coin collectors and treasure hunters, some examples of the 1979 Jefferson nickel are far from ordinary. They can be worth not just a few dollars, but thousands, or even tens of thousands, if you happen to have the right one. The Jefferson nickel series began in 1938, replacing the beloved Buffalo nickel. The winning design came from a competition won by sculptor Felix Schlag. On the front, or obverse, you'll see the proud, thoughtful profile of Thomas Jefferson facing left. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust," and to the right, Liberty followed by the date. On the back, or reverse, is Monticello, Jefferson's elegant Virginia estate, depicted with its clean neoclassical lines, complete with the dome and steps that are famous among collectors. Below, you'll see the denomination, 5 cents, and the proud title, United States of America. By the time 1979 rolled around, the Jefferson nickel had already seen over 40 years of production. That year, they were struck at 3 U.S. mint facilities, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark, Denver coins have a small d on the obverse, and San Francisco coins, mostly proofs, bear an S. Proof coins were struck with special dies and polished blanks, giving them a mirror-like finish that's meant for collectors rather than circulation. Now, here's the thing, millions of these nickels were produced in 1979. So, what makes a small handful of them so incredibly valuable? The answer lies in condition, rarity, and mint errors. Let's start with condition. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a flawless, perfectly struck coin. Most nickels you'll find from 1979 have been rattling around in pockets, purses, and cash drawers for decades. They have scratches, worn-down details, and lost their original mint luster. Finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially one that's been preserved carefully since 1979, is rare. If it also has sharp strike details and brilliant luster, its value climbs dramatically, and that brings us to one of the holy grails for Jefferson nickel collectors, full steps. On the reverse of the coin, at the base of Monticello, you'll see a series of steps. Because of how nickels were struck, these steps often appear faint or incomplete. A coin that shows all the steps clearly and without breaks is called a full steps nickel, and it's a lot rarer than you might think, especially for coins minted in the late 1970s. A 1979 Jefferson nickel with full steps in top grade can sell for astonishing amounts, but condition isn't the only factor. Sometimes, the most valuable nickels are the ones with errors, those little unintentional quirks in the minting process that make a coin unique. For 1979, some of the most interesting and valuable errors include double die obverse, DDO. This happens when the die that strikes the coin is engraved twice, but slightly misaligned the second time. You might see doubled lettering, a shadowed date, or a slightly blurred look to Jefferson's profile, double die reverse, DDR, similar to the DDO, but affecting the back of the coin, often visible in the inscriptions, E pluribus unum or Monticello. Off-center strikes, a dramatic error where the coin's design is shifted off to one side, leaving part of the surface blank. The more off-center, the rarer and more valuable, especially if the date is still visible. Clipped planchets, a curved section of the coin is missing because the blank was cut incorrectly before striking. Wrong planchet errors, very rarely, a nickel might be struck on a blank meant for another denomination, like a penny or dime. This results in a coin that's the wrong size, weight, or color, die cracks and cuds, small raised lines or lumps caused by a damaged die. These might seem minor, but for error collectors, they add character and rarity. Now let's put all of this together. Imagine a 1979 Jefferson nickel that has never been circulated, graded at the very top of the scale, showing sharp full steps, and maybe even featuring a rare error. That's the kind of coin that makes serious collectors sit up and take notice, and open their wallets. It's also worth noting that 1979 was an interesting time in U.S. coinage history. The economy was facing high inflation, and the Susan B. Anthony dollar had just been introduced. While the Jefferson nickel's design stayed the same, the U.S. Mint was continuing to refine its processes. Even so, small mistakes still slipped through, creating the rare and desirable varieties we see today. For collectors, hunting for these treasures is half the fun. Many go through rolls of nickels from banks or inherit old jars of change from family members, carefully inspecting each coin under magnification. And when you find a coin that ticks all the boxes, perfect condition, rare features, and maybe even a mint error, it's like striking gold in the world of numismatics. And here's the part you've been waiting for: a top-grade, rare 1979 Jefferson nickel with all the right attributes can sell for an incredible $88,000. So, the next time you're holding a nickel from 1979, don't just drop it into a vending machine or toss it into your change jar. Take a closer look, you might be holding a small fortune in your hand. Top 5. We are diving deep into the world of American coinage to uncover the story of a coin that millions of people have handled without ever realizing its hidden potential, the 1984 Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it's just another 5-cent piece. Small, common, and almost invisible in daily transactions. But as any passionate coin collector will tell you, the true magic of numismatics is that even the most ordinary-looking coin can turn out to be extraordinary. And in the case of the 1984 Jefferson nickel, there are certain examples that are worth far more than you would ever expect. Let's set the stage. The Jefferson nickel first made its debut in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and it has remained one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Its designer, Felix Schlag, captured the dignified left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and placed Jefferson's famous Monticello home on the reverse. While the original design saw minor adjustments over the decades, the overall layout in 1984 remained classic and recognizable to every American. The obverse of the 1984 nickel proudly displays Jefferson's profile with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," along the left rim, "Liberty," and the date along the right, separated by a small star. The reverse features Monticello in elegant detail, with "E pluribus unum" above, Monticello, and 5 cents beneath, and "United States of America" wrapping around the bottom edge. In 1984, the U.S. Mint produced these nickels in huge quantities. Philadelphia struck coins without a mint mark, Denver used the D mint mark, and San Francisco produced proof coins marked with an S. With so many minted, you might think none could be rare, but this is where coin collecting gets exciting. What transforms an everyday 1984 nickel into a small fortune is a combination of condition, special striking features, and rare minting errors. First, condition. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1, worn and barely identifiable, to 70, perfect, flawless, and often called mint state if uncirculated. After decades in circulation, most 1984 nickels are covered with scratches, nicks, and dull surfaces. Finding one in pristine condition, especially one that has been preserved since the day it left the mint, is incredibly rare. The luster, sharpness of detail, and lack of wear can make such coins highly desirable. Next, we have one of the most important details for Jefferson nickel specialists: full steps. This term refers to the series of steps visible at the base of Monticello on the reverse. Because of striking pressures and die wear, many nickels do not show the steps in complete detail. But a coin with all 6 steps perfectly visible, without any interruptions or flattening, earns the full steps designation. In 1984, finding a nickel with truly sharp full steps is much harder than you'd think, and when combined with a high grade, it pushes the coin's value into a different league. And then we arrive at the realm of errors and varieties, the fascinating quirks that slip through the minting process. For the 1984 Jefferson nickel, notable and valuable errors include double die obverse, DDO. This error occurs when the coin die is engraved twice at slightly different angles, creating a doubled image in certain parts of the design. On the 1984 nickel, you might notice doubled lettering in Liberty or In God We Trust, or even a faint doubling in Jefferson's eye or hair. Double die reverse, DDR, similar to the DDO but affecting the reverse. This can show as doubling in the words E pluribus unum, or in architectural details of Monticello. Off-center strikes, a visually dramatic error where part of the design is missing because the coin was struck off-center. These can range from slight shifts to extreme misalignments where a large portion of the blank surface is visible. Clipped planchets, a portion of the coin's edge appears cut away in a crescent shape due to a faulty blank cutting process. Broad strikes and partial collars, errors where the coin was not properly confined in the press, causing it to spread out or lose its defined rim. Wrong planchet strikes, very rarely. A nickel might be struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Like a penny or a foreign coin, for collectors, these errors are like fingerprints, unique quirks that make a coin one of a kind. A 1984 Jefferson nickel with a major error, in pristine mint state, and with full steps is the kind of coin that sparks fierce bidding wars at auctions. beyond errors, there's the thrill of history. By 1984, America was in the midst of technological change. Personal computers were just beginning to find their way into homes, the Cold War was still ongoing, and the U.S. Mint was modernizing its equipment. Even with improved minting technology, imperfections still slipped through, and these are the imperfections collectors now chase. Every coin has a story, and the 1984 Jefferson nickel is a perfect example of how an everyday object can hold hidden treasures. Imagine a coin slipping into circulation in 1984, making its way through countless transactions, buying coffee, bus fares, snacks, only to end up decades later in the hands of someone who recognizes its exceptional qualities. That single moment of recognition can turn a simple 5-cent piece into a windfall, and now, for the moment you've been waiting for, the most exceptional, high-grade 1984 Jefferson nickel, with sharp full steps and possibly a rare error, has sold to eager collectors for an astonishing $95,000 to SO. Next time you're sifting through your change or opening an old jar of coins, take a moment to look closely at those nickels. That plain little coin in your hand might just be a piece of history worth more than you ever imagined. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden value of American coinage, be sure to like this video, subscribe for more fascinating coin stories, and share this with anyone who might have a forgotten fortune sitting in their pocket.